Friday, we are looking at the relationship between governance and leadership. It is brought to us by Mr. Erick Nsikayezwe Sithole, a founder and a CEO of Nsikayezwe Management Consultants, a consulting company that seeks to provide better solutions to current and future business challenges. He is also a founder and a CEO of Nsikayezwe Global, a company that focuses on leadership challenges ranging from societal, corporate, political, and state affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to hand over to Mr. Sithole so that today we can learn about that relationship between governance and leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues. It's a great joy for me to be invited to give a lecture today by the Moses Kotane Institute, the lecture on the relationship between governance and leadership. Well, we don't have much time, so I will be just going straight to the presentation. It's a complicated discipline, but I've tried to summarize some of my research. What I'll be giving you today is just a summary. I think in total I do have 100 to 120 slides that I usually use to teach when we have leadership session at Nsikayezwe Global. So without wasting time, let us go to our first slide. So I think on my first slide, I have the definition of governance. What is governance? So we are saying here, governance refers to the manner of governing. Governance refers to the manner of governing. You can govern at home, you can govern in the institution, for instance, public and private institutions. We can also govern in the political sphere. So that's what we're talking about, governance, the manner of governing. That's very important to note. Secondly, we're saying governance mainly involves two critical elements. Governance mainly involves two critical elements, and they are, number one, decision making. Number two, the implementation of those decisions. I said governance involves two critical elements. Number one, decision making. Number two, the implementation of those decisions. Now let me just give you an example. Today in South Africa, we are regarded as a country. Amongst many countries in the world, we are leading when it comes to inequality. That was not just an incident. It is not an incident. It was, or it is, a result of the decisions that were made pre-1948, after 1948, before 1994, after 1994, even though today those decisions are still being made. So the inequality is not just an incident. It is a result of the decisions that were made, that are still being made even today. So that's the important factor about decision making. So which means not anyone must be allowed to make such decisions or to be in the positions of authority where decisions will be made which will have a negative impact in the lives of humanity, in the economy, and other sectors. So those decisions were made, and today we have a problem of inequality. That's not the only decision that was made. There's another decision that was made amongst many, which includes black people not participating in election of the president. So as a result, not only that decision, but as a result of those so many decisions that were made, we have so-called atrocities. Many grew up without their fathers. Wives had to live without their husbands. Mothers had to live without their children, who decided that we have to fight this. So that's what I'm talking about here. Governance, the manner of governing. Decision making and the implementation of those decisions. Secondly,
those decisions are affecting or will have an impact on the lives of people, economy, the country, and etc. Now let us now go to the second one, which is leadership. What is leadership? As I always say when I'm teaching at global seminars, leadership is not about influence. Leadership is not about influence. I always say you can be influential, but mislead people. So you don't appoint someone into a position of leadership or in a position of authority based on the influence, because they can mislead people. Secondly, leadership is not about wealth. We often make mistakes in Africa and in this country of thinking that once I've become wealthy, then that means I'm a leader. Let me tell you something. I can be wealthy only to find that my wealth is not an honest wealth. Therefore, that does not make me a leader. Second, thirdly, leadership is not about education. We need education. But remember, you can't just appoint someone into a position of authority based on education only. Because you can be an educated puppet. So it's not only about education. What is it about? Advancing humanity. All leaders, when we're talking about leadership, I know that in most universities they don't teach you this, or they don't teach these things. Leadership is about advancing humanity. Remember, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bears rule, the people mourn. You will never see a leader destroying humanity. Leadership does not destroy. So, on my third slide, then I covered this. They said, when we are talking about leadership, about advancing humanity, what do we mean? The understanding of leadership. We are saying, where there was no justice, leadership brings justice. Where there was no justice, leadership brings justice. Where there was no growth, leadership brings growth. Where there was no discipline, leadership brings discipline. Where there was no control, leadership brings control. Where there was no stability, leadership brings stability. Where there was no order, leadership brings order. Where there was no equality, leadership brings equality. Now, this is what I call leadership. This is what I call leadership. Leadership advances humanity. So we're talking about two things. The relationship between governance and leadership. There is a principle behind that. The principle that will make me, or that will make me conclude that there is a relationship between governance and leadership. What is the principle? It's simple. An apple seed will never give birth to oranges. An apple seed will never give birth to oranges. What do I mean? If, for instance, I'm among the wealthiest men in Africa or in South Africa, and then based on that, you approach me, or you request me, or you decide to put me in a position of authority, whether be I become a president, or a minister, a CEO, an MEC, a premier, a mayor, municipal manager, an accounting officer, or you decide to put me on a board just because I'm wealthy, and you are not questioning the source of my wealth, or you are not questioning how did I make this wealth. And I know that for the past 20 years, or for the past 30 years, for the past 40 years, I've been making money in an unethical manner. Then you decide to put me in a position of authority to make decisions. What makes you think then that as soon as I assume that position, I will then become an ethical man. An apple seed will never give birth to oranges. Secondly, if you approach me based on my education, Erick is educated for the masters, but you don't check my values, my beliefs. Let's say I was taught, as I have an education, but I was taught that apartheid was not bad. And then you put me into a position where I am expected to deal directly or to make sure that the injustices of the past are addressed, are attended to. You put me in a position just because I am educated. You are only using that. He is educated, therefore he deserves to be in this position. But you don't check my values, my beliefs. What makes you think that when I get there, I will do the right thing? I will bring justice where there was no justice. So as I said earlier, leadership is not about education, because you can be educated but still be miseducated or be an educated puppet. So I'm saying here, we all need what is so-called good governance in our countries. And I can tell you where I'm sitting. Look at what is happening in our country in South Africa. The country itself. Look at the SOEs. Look at ESCOM. Look at SAA, Transnet. Look at the SOEs. I can tell you, what is happening there is not an incident. What is happening in these SOEs in our country is not an incident. It is a result of the decisions that were made by people, and they are affecting everyone. So you can't put an apple and expect apple to give you oranges. We always say, you reap what you sow. So therefore, I am convinced. Remember now I said, this is just a summary of more than 120 slides that I have in relation to this subject, governance and leadership. I am convinced that when you put good leadership, definitely you will get good governance. But when you put bad leadership in power or in authority, then you will have bad governance. Good leadership leads to good governance. Bad leadership leads to bad governance. And I repeat what I just said earlier. In our country, I would say maybe from 1652, we have to go back there. We are struggling with bad governance. In Africa, we are suffering from bad governance. And it is as a result of what the people that we put in power. We put people knowingly that they cannot take us to greatness. I was once asked the question. The question was, how can you put someone in power? How can you put an unrighteous man in power and then expect the unrighteous man to be righteous? How can you demand righteousness from unrighteousness? It's impossible. It's impossible. So, we have seen, because I want to substantiate my principle. An apple seed will never give birth to oranges. We have seen, in many cases, if you put a selfish man, or if you come to me, a selfish man, I'm selfish, you know that Erick is selfish, but he is wealthy, he is educated, and then you decide again to put me in power, knowing exactly that this man is selfish, but this man is wealthy and very educated. What makes you think that when I get into power, then I will suddenly change, I will become an angel, I will advance humanity? So that's our problem. So people always ask me, what is The solution. What is the solution when it comes to issues of governance and leadership? Number one, I didn't write it to my slides. I'm just giving you my solution. Number one is simple. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. What do I mean? I'm saying do not be deceived. Let us not, we've got access to information, right? So let us not allow the media, South African media, African media, international media, let us not allow the media to teach us or to define for us or to tell us who is corrupt and who is not corrupt, who is an angel and who is the devil. We've got access to information. We must become the so-called independent thinkers in South Africa. Let us do our own research about people that we need to put in power and about the people that we want, that these people must be the leaders in these SOEs. Let us do our own research. Let us not allow media to define for us who is bad and who is good. Because there's a tendency in the media to demonize certain individuals and to make people praise certain individuals. We can do better than that. We can do better than that. So let us not be deceived. Let us learn to be independent thinkers in Africa and in South Africa. Secondly, what is the second solution? Let us get involved. Let us not surrender our lives. Let us not surrender our country, our future into the hands of the politicians. I always say, in politics, it is rare to find a leader in politics. What you commonly find are politicians in politics. And this is very dangerous for a country. You don't need politicians in politics, but you need leaders in politics. Because leaders, when they're in politics, they will know that we are here to advance humanity. So let us not fold our arms and think that things will just happen themselves. We're going to vote a president, we're going to meet them maybe 5 years to come. It doesn't work like that. We have to get involved, make sure that our voices are heard, and there are so many ways we can do those things. But first of all, refuse to be deceived, become an independent thinker, do your own research about leadership, who is a bad leader, who is a good leader. Do not allow media to teach you that. Secondly, we need leaders in politics, not politicians in politics. I see that my time has, come to an end. I had 20 minutes. This is just, as I said, this was just a summary. We will continue with this in future. I hope you did get a little bit of what I wanted to communicate with you today when it comes to governance and leadership. An apple seed will never give birth to oranges. An apple seed will never give birth to oranges. What you sow is what you reap. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sithole. An apple seed will never give you an orange. I mean, you've spoken a lot about the history and what has happened to decision makers and governance. But what is ought to be, given the 4IR, given the emergence of technology, and that whole convergence of the physical, the digital, and the biological realms?
I think going forward, when it comes to that, we need the so-called innovative mindset. That's what we need. Innovative mindset. By nature, or by principle, leaders initiate. Where there is a leader, you must know there will be an initiation. Leaders do not wait for change to come. They bring change. My worry is that, especially in South Africa, we get so excited easily. I saw last year we were so excited about 4IR. As if someone just woke us up and say, hey, wake up. There's a new terminology called 4IR. What are you waiting for? But we failed to bring change that will liberate everyone. So I'm saying we need an innovative mindset. When we are in 2020, we need to think about 2030. What kind of life do we want in 2030? What kind of life do we want by 2050? And then our education system right now needs to talk to that desire. Our education system right now needs to talk to that end goal of 2050. I can tell you now where I'm sitting. I know that by 2050, we've got an advantage as African nations or as a continent that most of the youth will be approximately population around 1 billion population. So we need to start investing now to the upcoming generation. Well, another one was asking me, do you think we are innovative in South Africa? I said based on what? I said no, because everyone now we are using Microsoft Teams, we are using Zoom for meetings. I said no, as they always say, it's the COVID-19 that is now making us to change. I don't think, you see, when people see death, then they tremble. Hence, they want to start changing. But I'm saying, if there was no COVID, we wouldn't be here. I doubt I would be here using the Microsoft Teams to present this lecture. What does it mean? It means it's not only innovative mindset that we need, but we need people who will be able to push through the resistance that will be coming from the population, whether in Africa, whether in South Africa, but we need leaders who will be able to push up until what we want or what will better the nations become realized. So I would say innovative mindset and those who have the strength and the ability to push through the resistance that we see. I can tell you now, besides that, we have issues that we have presented as a country. That currently in South Africa, you don't have a bank that is owned by Africans. And I was teaching some students that we don't, I think people are thinking about a bank, some others will say, no, we need to see a bank, a physical bank. And I'm saying we can do better than that as well. What if we launch a digital bank, which is owned and controlled by black people? Let us think that way. Let us think that way. We mustn't just always be allowing other countries to tell us what to do. And as a result, we are following behind. But let us lead. I'm thinking in my mind, what about the digital bank, which is owned and controlled by black people? What about that? Innovative mindset, and be prepared and be willing and have the ability to push through resistance. Thank you.